We're taking you to the mountaintop on this episode of the Cash Compound Podcast, actually the peak, with Hunter Gore. Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to another great episode of the Cash Compound Podcast. I'm your host, JDew. Check us out at thecashcompound.com as well as thebankingbros.com. But in studio today, a new friend, fast friend, a lot of things in common. And we didn't even know it was going to be this great this quickly. But Hunter Gore, thank you for coming by and taking some time with us.
Absolutely, JD. Thanks so much for having me.
Before we talk about your peak performance in real estate and investment and IBC and all the things we like to talk about, let's go back. We don't know each other historically in this environment at all, but we do kind of know each other.
Correct.
Well, tell me how you actually figured out who I was. I guess I didn't know you, but you kind of knew me.
I did kind of know you. So all starts back in college. I went to Clemson University, and that's where I had the chance to meet you, see you at some basketball games, emceeing, which was always very fun and comical. Definitely
comical. I thought it was serious work for me. You were laughing the whole time.
Hey, I always appreciate a good laugh.
Okay, good.
So
good.
It was great.
Okay, as long as you were having a good time.
I was. Good time.
Okay, so Clemson University student. For those of you who don't know, I was the MC for Clemson University Athletics in South Carolina, where we live, for 13 seasons. For the men's team, 11. For the women's team, had a lot of fun. Singing and dancing, throwing T-shirts, half-court shot, full-court putts. Couple of half-court shots were made during my tenure for a car. Sometimes we made one. It was a very terrible prize, but it got made. That's when it's bad. Like, you can win a car this year, next year you win a pizza, or something like that, and someone makes it.
Hey, still valuable to college students.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Well, okay, so when were you in college, and what was the tenure that I was on the court trying to do my work to be famous, and you're probably just topless, painted orange or something?
Probably so. Probably back in 2017, 2018. Probably would have been about time when we were both there at the same time.
Okay, so. Very good. Well, I've moved on from that, not because I hated it at all, and you moved on because you made it through.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So what'd you study in college?
Yeah, so I was a financial management major.
Okay, very good. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but I moved on because of during the COVID years and my family growing, I changed into this education mode of still speaking through my talents and gifts, hopefully, to educate you guys on what we call the save and spend system. But Hunter, why finance? And did you learn the things you needed to learn to move into the space we are in now?
I wish I could say that I actually learned some of these things in my college courses. I did not. Actually started out at Clemson as a computer science major.
Okay, yeah.
I had a big interest in cybersecurity in high school, had a family friend that used to work for NSA, and so had a lot of, cool toys and gadgets, and I thought, well, hey, what else is out there? What else can I do, within that space? So he recommended that I go to school, get a degree in computer science so I could learn programming, and I could eventually go into that realm. And so started down that path.
When did you realize that maybe this ain't for me and you have to... Was it humble pie for you to change your major and realize this is not... I'm in trouble? It was for me because I changed a major as well in school, and I thought I was a failure because I was going to change, and I thought, this is embarrassing. Turns out everyone does it, and I'm glad I did. But what did you think?
Well, I'm glad I did as well. I really did not struggle at all in high school with my coursework. Getting to Clemson, I was about 2 months into my class that I realized this was not the major for me, not just the class, but it's not the major.
Oh, yeah.
So I decided to go into pre-business at Clemson. I knew I wanted to go into business if I didn't choose computer science going in, so it seemed like a natural pivot to come out of computer science, go into pre-business, which ultimately led me into financial management as a degree.
Okay, now I'm going to have opinions, I think, but we're going to let someone who actually has a degree, a bachelor's in it, what were they talking about in school? Did you learn passive income? Did you learn strategies to pay yourself first? Did you learn how to keep Uncle Sam away from your money, or what were you doing?
Unfortunately, they did not. Actually, last one you mentioned, Uncle Sam. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about when it comes to financial management.
Tell us more.
They really did not mention much of it at all. Specifically, I have an emphasis in real estate within my degree program. Clemson actually currently still does not offer a degree in real estate.
Okay.
And real estate can look like a lot of different things. Commercial, for sure. Residential development, whole 9 yards in between. But primarily within financial management, they really taught you how to be a good stockbroker or analyst, how to go work on Wall Street, how to work within a bank, how to understand, finance at a 30,000-foot level, and then apply it really in a couple of deep specific areas.
Okay. So were you able to take some emphasis at all, or it was just a pretty standard program where it was kind of the high level view?
Yeah. So my emphasis was in real estate.
It was in real estate. Yeah. So when you got to those classes, and maybe that was an upperclassman type deal, what were you focusing in on then?
Yeah. So trying to think offhand, one of the classes I really enjoyed was commercial appraisal. So learning how, does an appraiser or a bank or, a firm value and view commercial real estate. And, that could be anything from multifamily apartments to, a office high-rise building, medical office spaces, whole 9 yards in between, lots of different options.
But it was always it seems like the way you're talking about it was always from a bank's viewpoint. And of course, I'm sure you weren't the banker. It was always the commercial bank and how probably the Fed manipulated and kind of controlled that environment. It wasn't on a personal level then probably much at all.
Correct. It was not.
Yeah.
It was not on a personal level. The one thing I did take away was the beginning framework for how to use a financial calculator, which is something that I still use to this day. I'm sure you do as well.
Of course.
Very important tool to use in my line as both a real estate investor, agent, entrepreneur.
Okay, so why did you get into this type of program? What was your family background and mindset coming into it? What did you think you were going to be doing when you got out of school?
Well, I did not think I was going to be where I am today. The long and short of it is my family grew up middle class, had some money, but not a ton. Dad was an entrepreneur. He had some businesses, had some success, some failures. But I came into college and into the real world fairly naive when it comes to finance, especially real estate. Growing up, I always thought real estate, houses in particular, were just pretty places where people lived. Never really realized, hey, you could actually rent that out and get money. Did not realize the whole aspect of commercial real estate. So I was on a steep learning curve in college and then obviously getting out into the real world. So
once you got into the real world, what were you looking for? Did you find a job? Were you working in that Wall Street stockbroker environment, or you've decided to go a different route?
So I did decide to go a different route. Actually, I chose that route in college. I got my real estate license at the beginning of my sophomore year of college. I really did it because I had an interest in real estate investments. A good friend of mine and a fellow investor in the Clemson area said, hey, you should consider getting your real estate license. You can make some money by selling some property, some homes, and can roll those commissions on into rental properties.
Okay, and now this is Coach Chad, yes?
Correct.
All right, so
Chad
I know
Carson.
this man as well. Guys got to check him out at Coach Chad Carson?
I think it's just Coach Carson.
Coach Carson, okay. Great dude, and I haven't seen him for a long time, but he's probably going to be a great follow to a lot of folks. Yes. And his model is getting folks into places that, as a investor, that are passive, very passive, so he can spend 6 months out of the year traveling the world with his family, right?
Exactly.
Now, that's a pretty attractive deal, and it's not always the most pretty places that people live in, but it's a cash flowing mechanism for business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Chad talks a lot about is that you do not need this vast portfolio of properties to retire or to, scale back at your job to have some supplemental passive income. And that was one of the things that really struck out to me. And I'm still continuing to learn that the more I progress in my career and my own portfolio. But I always thought that you had to have, hundreds, thousands of properties.
Right.
And that's not the case. If you can just get one or two properties, that can vastly set you up for life. And you don't see that now, but years down the road, that'll really set you apart from the pack.
Passive income. That's the name of the game, and realizing how to get there. That takes us to one of our other series. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into an Investminute right now where we break down some financial tool or topic so you can understand it better. Let's go to Jonah.
Are you ready for it in under 60 seconds? Here's your Investminute. A 403B plan is a retirement plan similar to a 401k plan, but offered through tax-exempt organizations. With a 403B plan, employees defer a portion of their pre-tax salary into an individual account, often matched by a specific employer contribution. Funds grow tax-deferred, and the money is not taxed until it's withdrawn.
All right, we are back here in studio with Hunter Gore, talking through a few things about where you kind of came to knowledge around real estate and passive income, but how did you now transition toward infinite banking? You haven't mentioned that yet, and I'm a big fan of it. That's what we teach around here. But one of the reasons that we connected is because we were at a networking party.
Correct.
Having some delicious brunch, right?
Fantastic.
That was a fantastic brunch. Shout out to the folks out there who live in our community who hooked that up. That was great. But because of this man who created a mentorship program for a lot of young men, I emceed that event and met so many of his mentees the night before. But we had this brunch, and someone that was asking me what I was doing in life. They knew me also as being that MC guy and pretty popular in our community. And I was explaining to him, well, I've got a financial education company with my brother. He said, okay, that sounds interesting. Like, what are you teaching? What are you doing? And I said, we teach infinite banking concept. And you popped your head around behind some French toast or wherever you were hiding. And you're like, what? I've heard of that. I read some books. I think I'm doing what you are talking about and everything. So that was a very serendipitous moment considering there was 100 people in this room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really that journey for me started back in college. So I got my real estate license. I've been working for probably about a year, maybe a year and a half. And I had some money saved up. Again, my whole sort of deal for getting into real estate as an agent was to make money, commissions, roll those into properties. Well, as it turns out, being a self-employed college student that made, I can't remember, but probably closer to minimum wage for a full-time job.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really make a lot of money, and banks do not want to lend money to you. Go figure.
Now, the government lends you a lot of money to go to school. That's a whole different podcast. However, banks know that's not a good investment for us.
Exactly.
It's not buying a security. We're not secure about this man's weekend partying skills. Now, during your tenure at Clemson University, also, we were number one. We were killing it for football.
We were.
So
doing very well.
Yeah, most people are not. We're not doing a lot of deals on the side. We were celebrating and trying to get our tickets to the ACC championship or the national championship games. That was a great time to be a Tiger.
Hey, great time to be a Tiger, bad time to try to buy real estate investments as a college student.
There you go.
So, I was talking with a agent mentor of mine. He was one of the individuals who helped me get into the business, a different person from Chad. But he was talking with me, and I said, hey, listen, I have, I think maybe $5,000 at the time to invest in some real estate, but I'm having the worst time trying to find some properties to invest in. You know, how would you go about investing? Right. And he said, well, you've got a couple different options. You know, it's definitely hard to buy real estate with only $5,000, not a whole lot of steady income coming in. You should read these books and make a decision for yourself. So that's what I did. One of those books turned out to be a book called Bank on Yourself. Mm-hmm. Pamela Yellen.
Pamela Yellen, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I read that and I said, this makes total sense. Why haven't I done this before? And where can I sign up?
Yeah, okay.
So that was 4 or 5 years ago now. And it's been off to the races ever since.
Yeah, now Pamela Yellen, for those of you who don't know, we don't talk about her philosophy and kind of branch of infinite banking concept very often, but she was a student of Nelson Nash, who coined that phrase and term. And of course, the book we do always talk about is BYOB, 5th edition from R. Nelson Nash, Becoming Your Own Banker. So you mentioned that you had read that book when we were at the brunch.
Correct.
And I said, I know exactly what that is. Bank on Yourself, Pamela Yellen. And she has a tendency to talk about utilizing infinite banking style life insurance policies as retirement vehicles, though. So I guess you got the bug, though. Somewhere in there, she may have mentioned real estate. I don't remember now. I've only gone through her audiobook one time. But a lot of people disqualify themselves from something like banking on yourself, bank on yourself, or BYOB, because they think they need to have much more than $5,000. So
exactly.
Why did a college student think that? What did you see in that type of opportunity? Because she does talk a lot about retirees, a lot of people maybe rolling over qualified plans, and a lot of people disqualify themselves. Oh, you have to be rich and wealthy. Premiums are too high. So what did you see there?
Yeah. So for me, I really looked at it and I said, hey, here's an opportunity to pair a concept, infinite banking, with real estate. At the time, maybe there was a book out there or something like that, but there was not a whole lot of resources that said, hey, you could put money into this policy and you can, take it out to go buy real estate as an investment. And so I sort of paired those two ideas up, one that I came up with, one that she sort of introduced to me, and said, well, hey, why don't I put some money into this policy and then over time let it grow, continue to feed it, so that then by the time I'm ready to go buy a property, I can qualify for that. I've got the funds sitting there ready to go. My money's compounding on itself, and I can pull it out anytime. Better than a savings account. At the time, I can't remember what they were. It's probably a sub 3 or sub 2% interest rate. On the online banks, things like that.
At best, by far. I mean, at best. This is 2020. This is
correct.
Yeah, these are
20.
Wells Fargo's given 0.15. I think as of today, this is no money. Yeah.
Exactly. So I said, hey, why don't I pair these two together? And on the side, I'll get some death benefit if something ever happens to me.
Now that is a long-term, mature thinking from a person in college. I don't see that very often, but we're happy to help those who are in that position. So when you saw this and you decided to do it, obviously you were recommended some good stuff by a mentor, but where was the community? Where was everyone else? If this was so good, Hunter, why isn't anyone else talking to you about it? Have you been able to find other people who thought this was a good idea, or did you decide not to tell them? Because after 4 people told you were an idiot, you were like, I'll just be quiet about it.
Well, to be quite fair, I've not really found a huge community until recent. Part of that was obviously getting connected with you. But there's not a whole lot of people out here doing this type of policy, doing this sort of investment strategy, right? And so every now and then I would run across somebody who had maybe one policy or something, similar to what I was doing. But there are very few people who decided, hey, I want to go dump a bunch of money into my policy, and then I want to use that as a vehicle and essentially a placeholder of cash for my future investment vehicles that are going to, net me, 10, 15%, whatever that looks like.
Bro, you explain it so well. The difference between warehousing your wealth. That's what Nash would say. I warehouse my wealth here and I go invest elsewhere. So many people out there on the internet that we talk to all the time are thinking that this is a poor investment. They're like, well, if your return and your cash is growing this way or that way, if you have to borrow the money out of the cash value or against the cash value, against the policy, this is a terrible investment. And you just explained it like I didn't hear you say this was the investment at all.
It's not. For me, it's really simply a vault or a safe to store my money while I'm trying to search for those next deals.
You're speaking my language. That's why we called this the cash compound in the beginning, because it was the vault where you're supposed to hold the money inside the compound, Love it. Let's now take a look at and celebrate another great fan follow of the week. Shout out to our YouTube family out there at the Cash Compound and at Chelsea Babyful. Is that what that says, Hunter?
Looks like Chelsea Babyful.
All right, Chelsea Chase. What's up? We appreciate the follow out there. Recently, we've got more and more people taking a look at our main presentation. We'd love for you to see that virtually, and YouTube is a place to do it. I'm sure Chelsea has. Save and spend presentation. The save and spend presentation is what you want to see there if you're just starting out with us and you want to understand how you can save your money and spend someone else's from a mutual insurance company, 100 years old, A-rated, and leverage that policy for real estate investments like our friend Hunter Gore, our guest in studio today. So appreciate you, Chelsea, and we'll be talking on the phone very soon on a free consultation. So, Hunter, you now see this policy as a great place to store money. Mm-hmm. Store money, ladies and gentlemen. So now you've got more than one.
Correct. I do have 2.
Explain how you can have more than one. How is that? What is that about?
Well, I guess
Why?
I guess somebody decided, hey, we might as well give this guy some extra policies.
Okay, right?
Kidding.
Yeah.
No, so I'm sitting there looking at my first policy that I started, and I said, hey, I put X amount of dollars into it. I've pulled some money out in loans over time. Every time, by the way, to go buy a property.
Okay,
in one way, shape, or form.
Nice.
And I said, hey, I've got some extra cash. I know based on my personal budget, my household budget for the year, I'm going to have X amount coming in future cash every year. Why don't I warehouse that cash somewhere else that I know is going to be coming in that's not going direct to bills? And I said, hey, let's go put that into a policy so that I can activate that cash and use that as a source of funds for other investments, or whatever I might need in the future.
Bro, how old are you? Who's figuring this out at your age?
Not many people, I'll tell you that.
Right. So we meet just a couple 2 months ago, maybe. We meet maybe 2 months ago, and we have this conversation, realize there's a spark between us, but it wasn't just because of IBC. Obviously, there's a camaraderie there in the community, but you started to tell me what you were going to be doing, what you are doing now and what you're going to be doing, and I said, hey, we got to talk about collaborating on these ideas, partnering up, because we're in the same space, but complementary environments.
Exactly right.
Right? It's all about wealth and mindset and money, but it's complementary environments, and we got to tell our people about what you're doing. So help us understand some of the entities that you've started and what you're working on right now, and maybe give people a little taste about what we might decide to team up on in the future.
Yeah, lots of great opportunities in the future, that's for sure. Really, I tend to wear a lot of hats. Main source of time is going to be devoted toward my loan servicing company.
Okay. Tell us about that. What does that mean for the new person?
Absolutely. So I started a loan servicing company after I'd been doing it for about a year and a half for myself personally, and I said, hey, I need some systems and structure and reporting around this. The loan servicing company exists to help private and hard money lenders facilitate monthly payments or quarterly payments, whatever that looks like, between borrowers and lenders or investors.
Okay.
People who are, giving you $50,000 or $100,000. In my world, it's typically toward real estate, toward some sort of real estate purchase, acquisition, development, rehab, and then now you have to go make payments back. And there's a lot of ways that can look, but really we want to be a conduit for the investor or the lender and for those borrowers so that they can have some clarity into their loans, into their portfolio, so that they can have really just an idea of, hey, I've lent this much money out, this much is still owed back, and hey, how can I take that information and plan for future events, or how can I use that to plan for future investments?
Yeah, man, that would have been helpful for me. Becoming your own banker meant that it wasn't about a policy at that point. Becoming your own banker is, I have loans that need to be serviced. I've got money going out and coming back in, and now I'm at a place where I have 9 or so personal policies. We've had kids born over the course of my 9+ years of doing this, and I own policies here, there, and everywhere, and it's like, well, banking for a guy who did not take finance in school can be kind of complicated. I don't remember which money was supposed to go where, and I took a loan, and did it show up? Where did I put that money? And all that stuff becomes interesting. And so I understand it as what you might call seasoned policies that I have and things like that. When I put in some dollars, there's more cash value available than I actually deposited in premium and paid for. And this idea really struck me because I said, wow, when we've started to loan our dollars out there, private money deals, locally to a few people that we know mutually, becoming my own banker, I mean, I don't want it to be a job,
And most people don't, right?
Yeah. So how do I get this serviced by myself or with a third party and understand and they understand what's going on?
Exactly. And there's so much more that goes into it, but I like to try to break it down very simply for people to understand. But the whole concept for the company was born out of my own need and desire for clarity, for people to stay on top of, maybe somebody didn't make a payment on time, and now I'm having to go call and flag this person down. Well, heck, what if I'm in the Bahamas, on a vacation.
Right.
I can't do that.
Yeah, so. And so many things that can be monetarily affected by those late payments. Are there fees? Are there charges? What if they did that fix and flip and want to pay you off early? Well, how much do they pay?
Right.
That
what's
can be,
their interest rate? If they do pay early, if they do a partial payment, or if they pay too much, how does that affect the amortization schedule? How does that affect that interest rate? So all of those things are going to go into that. And thankfully, with my loan servicing company, now we handle all of that for our private and our hard money lenders.
Well, we look forward to helping out. Spread the word about that. We'll link to that for those of you on our YouTube channel or wherever you might be watching. We'll link to these types of things. And I think we're going to have more collaboration in the future where we can help our people find you so they can have their deals continue to be passive.
Absolutely.
Their deals continue to be passive as they warehouse their money inside policies. Well, I'm looking forward to those days coming up very soon. If there were something that you wanted to tell our listeners and our people about how to think about this. Many people do not start in their 20s. They weren't taught this in school. They were partying because their football at their school was almost as good as ours. Not as good as ours, right, in Clemson. But how would you tell the younger person, the younger generation, younger than me, to be thinking about their money, their wealth, and finances so they could get themselves on a much better path? And the reason that I ask that is we talk to people every single day when the light bulb comes on and we're walking them through the save and spend system. They all say, man, it would have been nice to get this started when I was younger, when I was first in the workforce. But I didn't know. I didn't think like this. I tried all the traditional things. It hasn't served me well. How do you help other people understand what you know in your mid-20s?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and funny enough, something I've sort of been pondering the last couple of months. One of my realizations is that time goes by so quickly, and the older you get, the quicker it seems to go. And the days roll on, the weeks roll on, the months roll on, and then, quite frankly, the years roll on. So I think it's, once you realize, depending upon, doesn't really matter where you are, whether you're 65 or whether you're 20 or 25. Taking charge of your finances helps you in so many different aspects of your life, so many different aspects. And when you can utilize, the IBC concepts and policies, you start to be able to set up your own systems, especially more beneficial when you're younger. You can build those over time to where, you do become your own banker. And, obviously that starts when you get your first policy, but as those grow, it really allows for opportunity cost in the long run. And I would encourage people listening and watching to take massive action. That's the one thing that people told me when I was in my early 20s looking at getting into real estate was take as much action as you can, whether that's watching as many videos that you all put out some great content, by the way.
Thank you, man.
Or learning as much as you can about real estate. When I got started, I was in a very similar position as a lot of people listen to this, I'm sure. Having little to no education, no support system around me, I had to self-teach everything that I learned about real estate, about IBC, about, finances, budgets, you name it. I've had to teach myself.
Well, welcome to the Cash Compound, man. Let's get you some resources and tools and help you out there do the same thing by finding this man in his ventures. Where can we find you online, and what do you call your companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So, main company, Peak Servicing. You can find us at www.peak, like a mountain peak, P-E-A-K, peakservicing.net. Also have my property management and investment company, Peak Ventures, LLC. You can also find us peakventures.net. And then I'm also on Twitter, or X. I still call it Twitter.
Right. So, if I'm talking about, it's like Prince. If you're old enough to remember Prince, you have to call it Twitter, or else nobody knows what you're talking about.
Exactly.
What was Elon doing?
You're like, X? What's that?
Correct. We'll talk about that on another podcast, too.
Yeah. But you can find me on Twitter or X at the Hunter Gore.
Very good. And you've got your own podcast. You were just telling me as we sat down. Tell us a little bit about that and your philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. So started the podcast with a good buddy of mine here in the Greenville, South Carolina, upstate South Carolina area. Podcast is called Biblical Bosses. Check it out on Spotify specifically. Podcast is really geared toward bringing a conversation around faith and Christianity into the business or entrepreneurship world with an emphasis on real estate.
Can't wait to listen. Hunter Gore, thanks for being in studio with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want more information, find him online. And look forward to introducing a way to help our community out there service their loans very soon as well.
Absolutely.
Hunter, thanks for being here.
Thanks, JD.
You are now tuned to the banking bros. Said we couldn't make it, Draco settled. This the life we chose. Gave a lot of game, never got a lot of thanks. Bow your head and say a prayer. We taught you how to be the bank. Generational wealth, we won't repeat the trap. We breaking curses over here, and all they do is cap. You never catching up to us, go run another lap. We deserve a medal, put the city on the map. Everybody gassed up, we don't put gas inside the test. They know the theme color green, but we some young black investors. Somebody had to do it, cause nobody came to help us. Get back up and wipe it off, you know that we would never settle. Don't stay where you at, you gotta reach another level. When you need it most is when you gotta strive for it. Stand for your beliefs, I know some people die for it. I'm wearing black designer, I don't